Hi, everyone, and welcome to tonight's broadcast of the Alley-Oop Show. We're going to just do a live commentary on the strategic plan. So everything that we've got planned for the next 5 years in Ontario basketball. This is a plan that's been in development with the help of members for a little while. So my name's Devin Gray. I'm going to be kind of your host tonight and help take you through it. I am a member of the Ontario basketball staff and marketing and communications, and I'm joined by Jansson, who's our executive director and who played a key role in developing this plan and looking at the strategic vision for the next 5 years. So I'll bring Jay in now. There he is. Jay, say hi, everyone. There we go.
Hi, everybody. Pleasure to be here tonight.
JJ, basketball fans are going to be very excited. I think they were this week looking at a vision for the next 5 years, something to look forward to. We've all been searching for something to look forward to when we can't play basketball. How important was it for the organization to be looking forward at a time when, things are a little bit stopped?
I mean, great question. Everything right now is really challenging and difficult for us with all the uncertainties and the challenges associated with COVID. But it's important for us to obviously continue to focus on the present, but also focus on the future. So, we're excited about the launch of this, the unveiling. In my tenure, this is the second one I've been able to be a part of, and this one's very exciting to say the least. There are some short-term strategies to bring back basketball, and there's a number of long-term strategies for us to be able to come out on the other end of this pandemic, hopefully stronger than even when we went into the pandemic. So very exciting time for us with this unveil during a time that obviously has a lot of still uncertainty and challenges associated to everything around us.
You mentioned planning for now and for the future and the near future, somewhere in between. How was the process when you're trying to look at the future, but also trying to plan what's happening next week, next month, and you really don't know what the guidelines are going to be, how COVID's going to change. I remember being at the office when we said, "Hey, we'll be out for 3 weeks, then we'll be back." So we've never known what the timeline will be. How did that affect making this plan for the next 5 years?
Well, just as you say that, obviously, thinking about it, it's nearly a year ago when we would have last saw each other in that kind of space. So, absolutely, the challenges of COVID, they're far-reaching, and this plan, has come together with countless stakeholders and a consultant specifically, bringing things together. But interestingly enough, I guess when you look at the plan itself, even within it, there's a difficulty, because our plan was to have this be for 5 years, and it was going to be till 2025. But as you can see, it's now called OBA NextGen 2026, because while we're in this kind of state of essentially inactivity, we pushed the plan for another year so that we can go into 2026 and plan from 2021 till that time. So even in that case, it's an interesting challenge that happened from the early planning stages.
Yeah, Aaron and April, we feel you too. We miss basketball. Jay, you touched on it a little bit just there, and we'll chat about this briefly before we pop it open and dig into the plan. But how did it come together? Who I know you said a consulting company that we worked with. Who was consulted? And how was this? How was this made? How did this come together?
Yeah. So, just going back to the 2015 version, it was a lot of internal sourcing that we had on that front. In this instance, we went out to market to get a sense of who would be able to accomplish a vision for us. And we're proud to have partnered with Capitus Consulting to achieve this new plan. So, in the planning stages, Paul Varian, who led everything for us, it was very comprehensive with a lot of information that was being presented. And then there was just information sessions and interviews with like countless stakeholders. I mean, Devin, you can speak to this. Like, one of the first information sessions was with our staff almost a year ago, right before COVID hit. And, beyond the staff, the board, partners and sponsors, Canada Basketball, OWABO, to name a few, and then external surveys to our members and the basketball community as a whole. So really, when I look at this, I think one of the highlights of this plan is that it's with all the consultation that happened with external groups and with all of our stakeholders. This is the voice of the OBA membership and the basketball community. So this plan is centered around what the basketball community and our membership is looking for us to be able to accomplish through this like framework and vision for the next 5 years. So that's what makes us actually like exciting is, while we're in this like inactivity and pause time, we have some to look forward to for the next, half a decade. And that's super, super thrilling.
Yeah, I think that's the important part to understand before we open this up. This isn't something that OBA just made up. This is done through collaboration and through hearing, what really everyone in the basketball community wants out of the next stretch. So feel free to ask questions. If you have questions along the way, pop them in the chat, either if you're on Facebook or YouTube, and we can answer those questions as we go. I'm going to share my screen here so we can get the plan up. Okay, strategic plan. You can see the vision. All communities in Ontario are enhanced through the sport of basketball. Mission to create growth-driven possibilities in basketball for everyone in Ontario, and values of respect, integrity, collectiveness, adaptability, fun, and compassion. Is there any comment you wanted to have on that, Jay, before we get into?
No, I mean, quick comment would be just, again, vision, mission, and values based on feedback from all of our stakeholders. Previously, like some of that was included, but now this is truly like the voice of the membership and the basketball community. And so we're excited about just, enhancing our vision, our mission, and our values moving forward. What we had previously was incredible, but this is just obviously another step in another direction.
Definitely. There's so many people that want to play basketball, including new players. Like one of the first pillar here is bringing basketball to everyone. And this includes that driveway player that we talked about, that young boy or girl that likes to shoot hoops but doesn't have a team yet. Part of this pillar is going to be targeting those and getting them to find their team. What sort of methods and things is Ontario basketball doing to bring more players into the game?
I mean, obviously, like a difficult question at this time right now because of inactivity. But as a whole, I mean, anybody who is playing in a driveway right now, anybody who's interested in getting involved in the sport, whether it's an athlete or whether it's a coach, we encourage anyone who wants to get involved to connect with one of our OBA member clubs. Like the member clubs are the framework and the structure of basketball in this province. They provide opportunities at the recreational level. Again, like an athlete or a coach, they can start their pathway recreationally and move into a competitive environment or stay recreationally. They can look to join an academy and be a part of a high performance stream. So there's a number of different ways that athletes can get involved. And the same goes for coaches. Anybody who is looking to be involved in a house league or recreational setting, contacting your local club and finding out ways to get certified and, putting your passion and your commitment to a certified and capacity is obviously like thrilling, just further education. But also there's other opportunities that, we offer as an organization directly. And really, I mean, maybe shameless plug, but an opportunity for anybody who's interested to go to our website and research the best opportunity that's there for them and what their pathway might be.
Amazing. Our next pillar here, we got building an accountable, sustainable basketball system. I know you mentioned, check out our clubs. We do have a page on the website that is to find a team. You can look by your region and find out what teams are in that region, who to contact, how to reach out. If there's a logo on a website, social media accounts for that club, they'll be there. And as we go forward, whether it's next season or the season after that, those clubs will have tryouts or different information. I know that one of the things in this pillar here about building sustainability is helping club development. So what kind of things is Ontario Basketball doing to help its clubs manage and help its clubs get even stronger?
I mean, just to kind of elaborate on what I said a moment ago, I mean, one of the greatest strengths of basketball in this province is our club system and the academy system. And, the bullet point right there is, over the next 5 years, there's going to be a focus for us to, strategize how we can enhance systems of governance, help organizations develop and provide avenues for increased technical leadership. There's a number of different ways that we can impact the sport. And the greatest way is in that local community. If there's an infrastructure in place that is as strong as it can be, it'll provide the avenue for athletes, for players, for coaches and officials. I mean, any stakeholder that wants to get involved in the game, that's the framework there. So, increasing the policies and protocols, as it says, and just ensuring that there's parameters and policies in place will just strengthen the game. And that's going to be one of the focuses. While the game is strong, we can always be stronger. And that's going to be one of the focuses for us moving forward.
Yeah, just as a side note, a comment we'll bring in from April. This is something that we're working towards in the next phase of our return to basketball. So this is definitely something that's being looked at, and we hope to have more news on that soon, sometime in early March.
Mm-hmm. No, it's a great question. To Devin's point, where, with some of the restrictions and the legislation that's just been shifted in the last little bit, recognizing that there are obviously a number of areas that are still in, like gray or red zones, that will obviously still be something that will have a lot of inactivity. But for others that are in, the greens or oranges or yellows, there are some opportunities for them to kind of get re-engaged. And we're going to have some, to Devin's point, some updates in the very near future to complement that. So great question, April. Thank you for that.
One of the things that we've talked a lot about is removing barriers in basketball. So, sometimes there are, reasons why people may not be able to access a court, or, not just in COVID times. So, this is an entire pillar here just to help people get access to the game. And one of those is already underway. We have the Gyms for Kids committee sourcing gyms, figuring out what gyms are open, and then potentially helping some teams pay for the additional cost of private facilities, which are open. So what's the future of that initiative and Gyms for Kids?
Yeah, actually, that's a great call on that one. So, ultimately, as Devin alluded to, the purpose of the Gyms for Kids committee is to approve on a facility access for OBA member clubs. And where we can provide programming to OBA members, as long as we're compliant within the provincial and local health and safety standards. The committee itself has been formed. We have a number of people as part of the committee, incredibly passionate, incredibly committed. There's been a number of meetings. And so with some of these more recent legislative changes, there are going to be some exciting updates about the initiative soon, and ways that we can support our member clubs at a time where obviously it's needed, and in a way that we can through this committee. So, the vision of this committee is here in the short term, and also something that we're looking to have in place for the foreseeable future because of the impact that it can have.
Yeah, I think that fits pretty well under advocacy.
Great point. Absolutely.
Another 2 points in this section here, talking about as far as taking down any barriers, diversity and women's leadership. Those are two of the goal areas where OBA has already been working to help remove any barriers that may exist. Can you speak at a little length about what some of the initiatives are in those areas that address those groups?
Absolutely. I mean, there's two specific initiatives that come to mind. I think it'd be great for me to speak to one and for you to speak to the other one with your involvement. But in later 2020, we announced the formation of the OBA Diversity Advisory Committee. And the committee's role is committee to recommend to our board of directors strategies focused on policy, programming, and promotional initiatives to educate and raise awareness around diversity in basketball. It's a critical topic. It's a very exciting initiative for OBA and for the basketball community. And as further, details are being put together, there'll be some updates from us in the very near future about that. And then with respect to female leadership, there's an initiative called, as you know, Devin, NextGen, highlighting HER and generation, which is really exciting. And I mean, I've been involved, but you've been involved very heavily. So I think it could be great for you to give some details about that initiative.
Yeah, we have a pretty strong cast of female leaders in our office. Between Corey LaFontaine, Lindsay Walsh, and some of the people that have been involved in these other groups, even outside of Ontario basketball, like the Canadian Association for the Advancement of Women in Sport. Now it's Women in Sport Canada. And working on their studies and the same game model, and just as Ontario basketball being a leader in that space, and through some of those studies and information, we've figured out that as far as women's leadership, there are 2 points where we want to try to help keep girls in the game. We've noticed that drop off after the U14 age. So trying to develop some programming and having identified what the factors are where girls drop out at that age, and then also at the end of their playing career, whether that's the end of OBAs or whether they've gone on to play college basketball, keeping some of these female potential leaders engaged either as coaches or as referees by letting them know what their opportunities are. Just explaining that pathway and then giving them the resources to continue that, and really just nurturing those female leaders. And that's that next generation, emphasis on her, next generation program that is going to be happening over the next couple of years.
It's exciting. Yeah. And I mean, as you said, we have some people on our staff right now, and even Lindsay, I'm glad you mentioned, because obviously she was a huge pioneer behind this before she left the organization. So anybody who's interested in any of that, both male and female, who want to obviously advocate for female leaders, we would welcome anybody to reach out to us so we can push that mandate forward.
Let's talk about Michael's question here. Michael from YouTube wants to know, what are some examples under the topic of game modifications? And I know, at least initially, game modifications for us will mean modifications to avoid contact, things that'll help minimize the contact in scrimmage situations, and then eventually in competitive situations. I think that our basketball development and technical staff have been working on modifications in that regard. But I think this is a broader topic about modifications to format, and potentially 3-on-3 is involved in that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. So to Devin's point, in the short term, it certainly is making recommendations to mitigate contact during the COVID timeframe, and then moving forward, obviously, there's a number of different ways that we have created, modifications within our sport. So there's kind of 2 ways of looking at it. One is modifications that are currently implemented, and if there are ones that are, that are necessary and can continue, then those are ones that we would, leave kind of as is or status quo, and others that if they require some exploration to enhance or to alter completely, then, it's a way for us to be able to look at that. And then to Devin's latter point there, 3-on-3. I mean, this summer, I think we're going to really get a sense of like how popular 3-on-3 is around the globe, and how that can be impacted here in Ontario and the rest of the country. Understanding that like playing outside is going to be, a great approach with the impact of COVID right now, and just everything along those lines. But bringing the game outdoors is really one of those ways that we can, and obviously the modification there is that you're usually playing 5-on-5 with, like 5 or 7 or 10 people waiting to get in the game. In this case, it'll be, 3-on-3 and a few people waiting to get in the game. So those are some really, really exciting components, especially now that 3-on-3 is an Olympic sport. And that's something that obviously like another facet of basketball can be introduced. Just like volleyball, as an example, has, indoor volleyball, but also has beach. So that modification is really exciting, and something that we're going to collectively see a lot of formation on over the next 5 years.
I want to quickly do Adam's question here about helping communities promote basketball. I think this is what we were getting at earlier when we were talking about working with the clubs, improving the level of the clubs, and also giving them the resources to promote what they have to offer within their communities. So that's going to be club driven, but supported definitely at the provincial level by Ontario Basketball.
Agreed. Yeah, no, and another great question too. And a great photo, Adam, a sport that was able to get played last summer versus ours. So, there obviously like are different factors for basketball versus other sports, and in being able to participate because of the physical barriers that are part of the sport, or the physicality that obviously creates a barrier. So, there are areas of the province right now that are cleared for further recreational activities, and others that are still in an inactive state. But as things open up again, there'll be a further promotion for us to be able to pave the way for basketball to get played again. It'll be transitional in nature. It'll be more recreational, then into a scrimmage kind of perspective, and then ease into a level of competition. So how that will look is going to be based on how things land over the next few months. But there's going to be a continued commitment for us to clear the pathway to get basketball back as quickly and as safely as possible.
And as all these pillars come together, eventually what we want to get to is a time and place where we can unlock everyone's potential. I know, Jay, you and I are both heavily involved in a presentation last week advocating for the future of high performance. Some of the top athletes that have reached either Team Ontario or OSBA Prep, targeted athletes that we've helped develop along the way, and that are future Olympians, probably a lot of them. How is OBA now investing in our best talent?
No, great question. There's that whole, 99% versus the 1%, and they both obviously are an important focus for the organization. So, for those of us that are not aware, like we are currently supported by the Canadian Sport Institute Ontario, the CSIO, through a program called the Ontario High Performance Sport Initiative, otherwise the acronym OPSI. And right now it's for women's basketball, but we've just had an opportunity recently to apply for men's basketball support. And so, we've gone through that, and the staff, Canada Basketball, our technical leads have worked incredibly hard over the course of time to provide the proper resources for those targeted athletes. And with this OPSI program, it's designed to enhance and comprehensively support the high performance sports system, to be able to have athletes and coaches train and compete at the highest level of international sport. So, we're continually investing in both areas of the sport, and these kind of initiatives allow us to really further invest in these targeted athletes by supporting them with various sport medicine and sport science resources, further technical leadership, whatever that might be, and it's really exciting. So we're really hopeful that that's something that we'll be able to provide some more updates on, hopefully in the very near future.
Thank you. Yeah, and these athletes' accomplishments are the result of them entering the game at some point, right, and being developed along the path. So, anyone looking to get on that pathway, there are milestones along the way and various programs in different ways that we will work with you to develop and get to that high level. I want to go to Kip's comment before we wrap up here. He was just asking earlier about how we're dealing with other non-sanctioned leagues. I know that was a point in the previous pillar. So I think how we've always approached this, Jay, is like we can only offer the programs we offer. We don't want to limit anyone from playing as much basketball as they want to play. If there are more programs out there than we offer, then we support playing basketball. And all we can do is provide the best programs that we can.
No, Nick, Kip, great comment and great point as well, Devin. It is something where, at the end of the day, if kids are playing basketball, that's what really we're obviously trying to accomplish here. In a non-sanctioned league, there would be some potential like factors or barriers that we otherwise, don't necessarily support. And that might be why there'd be like a non-sanctioning component to that. But ultimately, if people are playing basketball, that is really what the vision of this strategic plan is going to be. So are there methods that we've associated this time of how we would necessarily quote unquote deal with that? No, that's not really a focus for us. But something that obviously there'll be more dialogue on in the future for sure.
And then one more here. This is the Junior NBA Global Championships is something that I've been passionate about. I got to go to the first one in Orlando and follow two of our teams from Ontario that qualified. That we had excellent teams, the Brampton girls, the Welland girls. We've been well represented on the boys' side too, as Team Canada coming from OBA teams that have qualified to be Team Canada and gone to the Junior NBA. So we don't know what's in store for the summer of 2022 at this point, but we can only hope that event will be able to run in some context, and that we would continue that partnership with NBA Canada to continue to have our representatives qualify to be in that tournament and go to Disney World.
Absolutely, and great photo to see the OBA backdrop there is fantastic to see. To Devin's point, I mean, like for me, like when it happened at Brock University a couple years ago, being that that's my alma mater, I was happy to see that at that time, and the representation from Ontario has been unbelievable. Those results are just incredible, and it's kind of obviously like just a standard that Ontario's club system has set for us to be in that position. So we don't unfortunately have any details right now, but we're really excited about the possibility of that being an option for us in 2022 and beyond again.
Jay, let's wrap up on this. The strategic plan, 5 years from now, 2026, how will we know that, these goals have been accomplished and that this has been a success? Like how will you and the organization measure the progress in the next 5 years?
I mean, there's always that sense of optimism that you're gonna, check all of them off. And I mean, if I look back to like our previous strategic plan, like there are a number of highlights and milestones that we achieved, and there were some examples of a shift in priority or factors in place that we didn't necessarily accomplish that strategy, and that's okay because we can celebrate the successes and we can focus on the things that we didn't necessarily complete and turn that into opportunity. But we're going to create operational plans each year. We're going to update our membership periodically as we evaluate things and look to accomplish what we have as a roadmap here for ourselves. Basketball is at an all-time high in participation outside of obviously the COVID factor right now. And it's exciting times ahead. So we're just looking forward to being able to utilize this as a framework for us to, put together strategies that will complement all the things that we've identified here as pillars. So it's going to be a pathway that I'm excited about.
I'm just going to leave the link for the strategic plan here in the comments. Anyone that wants to look at it in its entirety or download it can do that. Feel free to, we posted about it on social media. If any other comments that you had or questions didn't get answered, feel free to leave them there and we'll get back to you. So, Jason, thanks for your time. I hope everyone's excited about the next 5 years and some of the goals that we have. I know that, we're excited to get back to basketball, and looking ahead gives us something to be excited about.
Agreed. Thank you, Devin. And obviously, thank you to our membership in the basketball community for the ongoing continued support. It's a very challenging time, to say the least, but we're going to continue to push forward and bring basketball back. And we're going to come out of this and be back super strong in the very, very near future.
Thanks, everyone.